Hi everyone, welcome to the Idaho Authors Showcase. My name is Janet Ravenscraft and I will be your host today. This show will be about authors and their stories. We'll find out about why they write and why this book. And then how they write. Do they use a computer, a laptop? Are they longhand? Are they recording? When they write. Are they writing daily? Do they set a time? Maybe it's the middle of the night. And what they write. Is it fiction or nonfiction? Do they like romance or sci-fi? Motivational or is it scary? Thank you all for joining us today. Now get a cup of something, sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Hi everyone, welcome to the Idaho Authors Showcase. My name's Janet Ravenscraft and I'll be your host today. Thank you so much for joining us. And my guest today, my author guest today is Jason Hanselman, and he has written Not a Rockstar Pastor. So Jason, tell us about this book. Where did this come from? Why did you write this book?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think I wanted to be an author when I was a little kid. Growing up, I think the fourth grade was the first time I thought, I think I should be an author. But, you know what happens. Life happens. You grow up, you go to college.
Parents tell you should be something else.
Yeah,
You're not going to make any money at that.
Right, exactly. You get a mortgage, 2.5 children later.
And the dog.
And the dog. And it's like, I think I need to do something else with my life. But actually, something inside of me just clicked one day. I thought, I need to go back to that first passion I had to write. And I started to work with a blog.
Okay.
And
so you're a blogger.
Well, yeah, sort of.
Sort of.
And I just had some people say, yeah, that's pretty good stuff. You should write more.
Oh.
And so I decided, I'm going to just put my thoughts on paper. And the book actually comes from my experiences in church work, ministry.
Okay, so you were a pastor then. When
I was.
I was going to say the not a rock star pastor. I was going to assume that, but you have to be careful there.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm sort of a recovering pastor.
Oh, recovering. I like the recovery part.
Recovering from ministry, yeah. Went through some hard times in ministry and decided, I just need to put this on paper and let people know about my experience, my journey.
Okay.
And it was good, bad, and ugly.
I know the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Yeah, I'll bet you do. So, the process of writing was fun, and then getting to a place where I could look at it and say, you know what, I actually like where I've been and what I'm becoming, and
there you go.
So it was good. So that's kind of how it started.
I like that part. Mine now. This is a fiction, but it's based on, or is it in the nonfiction?
No, it's more of a memoir.
Memoir.
Style.
So is it under the nonfiction or?
Yep, it's nonfiction.
Okay.
Yep, nonfiction.
I had to think about that for a second because I wasn't sure if you were writing about a thing. So it's actually your.
It's actually my story. Yeah. I changed the names to protect the innocent and not so innocent.
I was going to say probably more than not so innocent.
Right. So yeah, it's basically my biography in ministry. Not my whole life, but just that thin slice of my life.
That section of it. No, that's interesting. So how has that helped you? How have you used this? What has that done for you since you've written it?
Good question. I think I was at a place where a lot of people are in ministry where you pour out your life to other people for a long time. You help and you help and you help and you just don't see any results. And you just think, I don't know if this is worth it, if I'm good enough. And so you just go through that cycle of, well, maybe it's this church that isn't good, so I'll just move to the next one and move to another one. And that's a cycle that happens with a lot of people in that industry. Yeah. And I said, I need to write about that. And so as I wrote through that, I just started to think, I have done more good than I realize.
I bet you it was a good time to just do some reflection.
It was.
Look at, like you said, if we stop and really look at our parts, we can pick our life apart.
Right.
Pick it to death. I mean, we can.
Yep.
And yet when you go, okay, I'm here and I'm in a pretty good space. I wasn't always.
Yep.
And sharing that with others, I think that's what I see coming out of it.
Yep. It was more therapeutic or cathartic than anything. A lot of people who journal or write, you just get all those thoughts out of your head and onto paper. It really is helpful to just stand back and reflect and say, you know what, I've been through a lot, but it was good to just put it on paper so I can stop thinking about it.
I agree. I know when I was writing mine, and mine is basically a memoir or a period of my life,
Yeah.
where I feel like I'm pretty invincible now. But there was a period of life that I felt invisible, and so just writing about it and putting it in paper and going back and processing some of those periods of my life have been transformational for me, because now I've let go. And I did the good, the bad, and the ugly too. And I read about that and then I decided I'll write about some, I processed some, and then I just buried some. Some of that stuff I just left because I was like, man.
Yeah, I mean, I think it totally sounds like you can relate to what I went through in this process. It was good also to just talk about the pain that you go through. What do I do with that pain? What good did it serve in my life? What purpose did it have?
And how can you share that with others? Because you're obviously not the only one.
I hope not.
Well, I was going to say, and I would think with that chosen field, like any chosen field, not everybody's meant to be a pastor.
Yeah, that's
like
a good point, too.
doctors, like nurses, like authors. Not everybody's meant to do those things. So
that is very true. I think people in that industry feel very alone. Number one, and you're out in the middle of whatever city or town you've chosen to live in and work at, and you don't get to connect with a lot of other people in that industry, and so it's pretty lonely.
Well, and people look up to pastors, or
right,
they tend to put them on pedestals, and so involving them in their daily lives or becoming friends, that type of thing. I imagine that would be.
Yep. It's very difficult to admit, hey, I have a problem, everyone, because then
I'm a person too.
I'm a person. On a little church of 100, everybody knows your business, and that's good and bad. I mean, I write a lot about good people who helped me and my family through some of those struggles, but honestly, to admit a lot of the stuff going on in my life, that's not such a good idea when you're the guy that everybody's looking to have it all together.
Well, and when you're sharing some of that stuff, and when you're leading a group, and you're supposed to be encouraging in that, I can imagine that it's not your stuff doesn't, and it must be for most pastors, I would say, that they would be in that similar situation on that. So what's your writing process like? Are you a daily? Do you write so many words per day?
That's a good question. I started not knowing how to write. Honestly, I just sat down and would try and work through long periods of writing, and I discovered that didn't work for me.
Right.
So I stumbled on this book. I can't remember the name of the title of it, but the guy encouraged me to write 600 words a day.
So there you go. So you had a number that you worked with.
Yeah, and some days I went over that. Some days I struggled to get to it. But if you stick to 600 words a day, it takes about a year or so to write a book of any length. And so I just said, okay, I'm going to put words on paper. That's the best thing to do. But I'll back up. Before that, I wrote about 3 chapters. And every author's in love with what they write. I thought, this is great.
I'm a rock star.
I'm a rock star. Everybody's gonna love this thing. So I mailed it out, those 3 chapters, to 5, 6, 7 people. I did not get the glowing reviews back that I was hoping for.
But isn't it funny how people that have never written, or even if there are writers, that they all of a sudden become this, this person that knows everything, and they're gonna critique
exactly. So I shelved it. Janet, I did. I was like, you know what? It's not good enough. I must not be a writer either. So I just put it on the shelf and walked away for probably a year.
Oh, see? And isn't that interesting that, we should all encourage each other to do something. And so just by that one act of those few people made you think, nope.
It's not for me.
Yeah, not for me. And, but good for you to pick it back up. So what made you pick it back up?
Well, there
had to be some defining moment there.
Yeah, right. I have a red phone in my back office. Actually, I bumped into a person who's a friend now who was an actual real-life author.
Yeah, real-life one. Had published author.
A published author.
Yeah, there you go.
Published author. And she said, you know what? You really ought to pick that up again. Just finish your book. I promise it will be worth it. And I would say, I don't know, maybe. Well, after several months of prodding, I finally decided, okay,
let's dust it off.
Let's do it. Let's get after it and finish it. And I'll also say my wife was very encouraging. She said, actually, you do have some good stuff in there, just finish the book.
Yeah,
So.
just do that. And the thing is, if we don't get stuck on all the perfect pieces of it,
Yeah.
and if you can just sit down and write what you're going to do and put your thoughts on it and just get it all out. One of authors I interviewed recently is Kayleen Williams, and her thing is to just vomit it all out. So I like that thing. Okay, we are going to take a break, and we'll be back. Hi everyone, welcome back to the Idaho Authors Showcase. And my guest this afternoon is Jason Hanselman, and we've been talking about his book, Not a Rockstar Pastor. And it's been very interesting. So you published this, we were kind of talking about how did you publish? Did you use a publisher? Are you self-published? What was your process?
Initially, when I started writing, I think I was like a lot of other authors. I will just send it out to different publishers, and they will all love it, and they'll
They'll be fighting over you.
Send a big fat check, and I'm on Easy Street. But that's for a lot of people. That's not really reality.
That's not a reality.
And I know a lot of people do self-published, which I consider that not for too long. The route I went was hybrid publishing. And
so what is hybrid? Tell us more about that, because I think that's an interesting concept. And
I got a fantastic education from actually a local publisher, Aloha Publishing.
Great. We'll plug Aloha. I'm good with that.
You're welcome, Aloha. We discovered them. My wife actually discovered them in a magazine, a local Boise magazine, and she said, "Hey, look at this. These guys are actually asking for authors, and they do this hybrid publishing."
Seriously.
So I said, okay, I'll submit my things. I sent the 3 chapters in the proposal, and I was surprised when she wrote back and said, "This looks like something that we could really run with. What do you think?" And so I said, "That's great. I don't understand this whole hybrid thing. What is that?"
Tell me more.
Yeah, what does that mean? So when you do the publisher route, there are like 5 or 6 major publishers out there. They'll send you a check, and you give them your manuscript.
Everything goes to them, and they kind of take it over.
You lose control at that point. Self-publishing, you do it all yourself, all the design work, all the copy, all the editing, and you put it out there yourself. When you do hybrid, you pay the publisher a little bit up front.
Okay.
And they take care of the book cover, the design, the guts of the book.
The editing, the proofreading, the formatting, all that stuff that goes along with it.
Right. Now, I worked with Endurance Press, who does the same thing.
Oh, okay.
And so I actually got to pick my own editor.
Oh, perfect.
And then submit that. So a lot of the material was still under my control.
You did your reviews, you still did your edits and that.
Exactly. Yep, he took care of all the legal stuff. The ISBN, the Library of Congress, they designed this great cover for me.
I was going to say, covers are always a huge thing. How much of that, did you have an idea of what you wanted, or did they just kind of come?
So I went out and I searched for some images that I thought would work well with this book, and then they took the image that I sent them and massaged it and made it a whole lot better, and came up with this design.
It's a great cover, the whole Rockstar Pastor part. So.
Yeah, it's fun.
And then they helped you, they published it, obviously. Did they help you with any of the marketing?
They're doing some of the
promotion.
Yep, they're doing some of the marketing, the distribution, which is huge. Yeah. So when somebody places an order, Endurance takes care of all of that. They have their own publisher, or their own printer, excuse me, which is really nice.
And they're local.
And they're local.
That's local business. Yeah. That's great. So that'll be good for letting other people know, especially authors here in the Boise area.
Oh, absolutely.
Boise,
yep. And I don't have to hold a bunch of inventory in my back basement somewhere. They get to house all that and send it out. So it's just a good mix between control and not having control.
Well, and there's so many parts and pieces to it, because I didn't necessarily do my hybrid. It's kind of a hybrid. It would be like a hybrid, because I obviously did mine. I did mine in CreateSpace, but I had an editor, I had a proofreader, I had a formatter. So people did different parts of it. Yeah. But I could see the benefit of that and how that would be attractive to new authors. And
Yeah.
it gives them another option.
Well, I think new authors also don't understand that you really work with a team. You
Well,
don't really do it on your own. And anybody who thinks that they can do that, it's just a crazy notion.
Yeah, there's very few people that can, or it takes them longer,
Right.
that type of thing.
Exactly.
Yeah. Great concept. Thank you for sharing that, because
Yeah.
I think that will be of interest to our audience and to future authors on that side of it. So how do you do using social media for your marketing? Are you helping out in any way, or is Endurance doing, or Aloha doing all of that for you?
Endurance is doing most of it.
Okay.
But I think when you write or when you get published, the onus is really on you to get it out there on your own social media sites, to go out and talk to people and get in front of people, like this is a great opportunity for authors. You have to really decide that you want to sell this book. And so I'm doing a lot with social media.
Now, are you going to use this also as part of a speaker panel and using it to promote that in that way? Is this something that you want to talk to about into groups, church groups, that type of thing?
Actually, I would like to do that, eventually make this sort of a grassroots leadership movement. The book's about leadership and how to raise up better leaders for an organization that seems to be having trouble with that lately. So I'm hoping that I can gather some of the leaders that I know, even around nationally, who will come together and talk about the ideas in the book. The book doesn't have any answers, it just has questions. So I want to gather a bunch of people together and say, hey, tell me your story. Let's figure out how we can come up with some answers to figure out some of these problems.
I can see it being a good vehicle for that.
Absolutely.
To be able to that. So this is newly published, you're out a month or so, I think?
About a month and a half.
About a month,
yep.
Okay. So do you have anything future? Is this part of a series? Or you got off on some other tangent? You have books in your head?
Oh man, I wish I had another book in my head. Well, actually, I don't know if I do or not. It's painful to write a book, isn't it? To go through that process.
Especially if it's when it becomes so much about you. But you said at what, 4th grade or something, that you knew you wanted to be a writer? Or?
4th grade, I wanted to write a book. I had such a loving grandmother. She had one of those old IBM typewriters with the little ball in the middle that would spin and type. I don't know how many.
And you were fascinated with just watching them all turn around. And
so she typed a lot of my books.
Oh.
I think I even have a couple at home.
I was going to say, did she?
Yeah, I kept one.
She should have kept them, and then you would have,
So that's when I knew. I was like, wow, this is really fun to tell a story and actually have people be interested in the story.
And then she obviously was an encourager for you,
Definitely.
So she would staple it up or print it, put it in a little binder. And
we would cut 8.5 and 11 by sheets in half and staple and bind and do all crazy things. It was terrible work, by the way, but it was fun.
But what a great memory you have.
Oh man, big time.
Something that you can pass on, and when you create that. So you had that. So do you I know you blog, so you're blogging daily, or do you journal? Do you do other writing?
The truth is I hate journaling.
I get that. I totally get that, because I tell people I don't.
I blog once a week. I help raise money for nonprofits, and so I put a lot of advice out there about here's how to do fundraising better or differently. So it's just been a good way to keep up my writing skills.
Keep you connected.
Exactly. Yep.
And so do you put are you weekly going out and putting little bits of your book out there?
I've recently started to share some of my book on social media, just little sections, and then encourage other people, hey, what's been your favorite passage, and have them fill that in on social media. Haven't done much blogging about the book. And I don't know why. It's just hard to, I've written it, and so it's just like, all right, I'm done with that topic. Let's move on. But I know I probably should do way more talking and blogging about the content in this book.
Yeah, it depends on what you want to do with it. Is a big part of it. Is if you're wanting to share that and to get that information out there, or are you using it as a platform for groups and sharing that information and the ideas, or pulling together. So every author has a different, and if I've learned nothing in the last few months, is that every author has a different story and a different reason for writing.
Yep. I wanted to legitimize what I do. When you can walk in someplace and say, "Here's my book,"
Yeah.
and it's not the spiral bound thing that'll. No
Not the
offense,
one
anyone out
grandma,
there. Something,
not the one that grandma typed up for me and we
exactly.
stapled together. Yeah.
It makes you look legitimate. Like, oh, maybe this guy knows what he's talking about. He actually was able to finish that project.
It's a huge, isn't it a huge thing? It's like a big thing to be able to know that you've actually got that point, and
Yep.
a huge accomplishment that once it's in print. Now, as it was going into print, did you have any anxiety about that?
Oh,
Or people-
absolutely. Yeah. Well, I wondered who was going to read this thing, number one.
Well, especially after your previous.
Right. And, and it's a story. There's a lot of pain involved in my story. And so, some of the people who are in the book are going to recognize, I wonder if I'm that person. And, so there was that in the back of my mind. But, the moment I had the book in my hand, it was like, you know what? It was worth it.
It was worth it.
It's my story, not theirs. And so it'll be okay.
Yeah, mine was the beginning and parts for me were when I was in high school and when I was younger, and so all that angst, that teenage angst
Right.
came back. I was like, can I
Yeah.
write about? And then what are they going to think? Those people,
Right.
they had no idea that I was like that. So, well, that's been really interesting. Well, we're going to stop and take a break, and we'll be back. Hi, welcome back to the Idaho Authors Showcase. And my author today guest is Jason Hanselman. And we've been talking about his book, Not a Rockstar Pastor. So tell me about why, when you started writing, what got you started on that?
Professionally, I'll say it that way.
Yeah, let's do it that way.
Okay.
How did you get started professionally?
I moved to a little town in western Nebraska and, had this itch to write, but I didn't want to write a book. So I went down to the local newspaper and said, hey, I would like to write for you guys. And the sports editor, the section that I really wanted to write for, said, you don't have any experience, but let me tell you what I'll do for you. And he let me go out and watch high school football, volleyball, basketball. So I watched a lot of terrible sporting events, but it was fun though. I really,
especially at that high school level.
Yeah,
I mean, you can
and
have a good team and a bad team every year.
it was fun though to go and just cover those stories and then figure out a way to put together a story. And then the thing that I really learned in newspaper writing is don't be afraid of someone editing your work.
Oh, see.
And they would. I'd write these beautiful long columns, and half of it would be in the newspaper the next day.
They'd take out, a portion of it. So that would be probably interviewing athletes or high school athletes.
Interviewing athletes, coaches. And then after I got decent at doing that, he would say, hey, I need you to call this person to do a feature story.
Oh.
And so it was a great way to just call people, get to know people, and then take what they say and actually put it into story form.
Okay, that's great, and that's a great idea for future authors out there, or people that want to write. Anybody that wants to write out there, get a hold of a local newspaper. See if you can submit some, or do something like that, interviewing, and see to get you started, to get you into that writing mode. So, I think that's
It was a great way to start. Yeah.
I was going to say, and so how long did you do that for?
Well, actually, I still do it today.
You're still writing for
I'm still writing.
The Nebraska
It's
local
the
paper?
the Scottsbluff Star Herald in Scottsbluff, Nebraska. And
Give them a little plug.
yeah, that's right. You're welcome, Jeff. He still writes or calls and says, "Hey, I've got these people I want you to call and interview their college athletes who used to live and grow up in this area."
Okay.
And they're a local newspaper, and the local people like to read about their sports heroes.
It's something about small towns and their sporting and high school events.
Oh, man.
They're some of the best fans out there.
Yep.
Because they were their kids, or they know them personally. And I think once you know somebody personally, then it's like you want to see where they go. You want to
Absolutely.
see where they headed next, that type of thing.
Yep.
So then let's move on a little bit. Who do you have a favorite author?
I do.
Somebody that inspired you?
Yeah.
What do you read?
Yeah, well, there's a guy named Donald Miller who wrote a similar type book to this, although his is way better, way more famous. But he wrote Blue Like Jazz. But the book that I really liked was A Million Miles in 1,000 Years.
Oh, okay.
And it was about living a better story. Your life is boring. Do something better with your life.
Oh.
And I thought, that was also an encouragement to me to write, to take a chance, to say, okay, I don't know if I'm going to be good enough at this, but let's take a stab and see what happens. And it was very encouraging. It's great reads.
I was going to say that. So, are you inspired by any movies or Would you rather read the hardback book, or you want online, or you
Hardback.
want it in movie form?
No, well, I like movie, but I also want hardback as well. I'm not much of a Kindle digital guy, so I'd rather paper.
Yeah, I've tried that, and I have a Nook, and but I just don't do it as well. And then I kind of listen to it, and I try to do audios, and I'm not great at that side.
Yeah.
So let's kind of finish this up with your best advice for aspiring writers.
Sure.
And then also, if you have anything you want to share with your readers out there.
Yeah.
So,
well, I think what I would say to aspiring authors is kind of what I said in our first segment, is just be creative. Get it all down on paper. Just start writing. 600 words a day, and be very selective in who you send it to right away.
Yeah.
You will get a lot of people who give a lot of advice about how to write, even though they've never written before.
I was just going to say those dream stealers.
That's right. They and they don't mean to, but they will stomp on and kill your dreams. So finish it, write it, and then go get yourself a really good editor. Get some thick skin, because they will say, you need to change this, or this really isn't so good.
Or you need to add something here, or
right.
you just stopped writing because you got to a dark place and you didn't want to play in there. So
and it's not personal, so that's what I would say. Write, get it out, get a good editor, and then just take a chance.
Take a chance.
Take a
and
chance.
Want to say anything to your readers?
Yeah, I would welcome that you guys would pick up a copy and see what you think. My encouragement to you would be that you need to find your place, your fit in life, and that's what I write about.
That's
so
great.
Make it happen.
I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
It's been great.
Thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you for coming. I really enjoyed our conversation. And thank you all for joining us too. I hope you've enjoyed today's show and that you'll come back again. Have a great day.